Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 4th of March, and as we get ready for the Ides of March, which will be coming up, we're currently in this, basically DOC steel falling to short-term buyers. We also had a fade off of our midterm buyers, and wasn't enough to catch interest of more of long-term. Of course, new fund money is going to be coming in here right as the week ends, so we'll see if that's going to be enough to support this 50% move. Not looking good because we did get that cross of the power mode 2 off of, below the 13, and that tends to be negative. And you can see the shakeout responding accordingly. So intraday, the signal's been pretty clean as far as the selling that's been going on in between the pop-ups. So it's, I think, pretty clean overall. Really, NASDAQ isn't as weak. You would expect to see shorts rising into this. They haven't really, so this has just been a buyer failure. But this rising zero has led all the way to the zero. So if you look at the comparison from a Morganacci standpoint, you're above 50% on the ES, and on the NASDAQ you're at the zero line. So quite a difference. And now you've literally filled all the way back past the early part of last year in December. So interesting to see that develop. Gold, of course, can't catch a bid because there's no inflation, and there's going to still waiting to see how much stimulus is going to happen. Just, now the checks are going to be lower, and so those things are changing. It's not going to be a positive from a market standpoint because they want that liquidity. And from a euro, like I've said, it's already been well higher than necessary, but with the talk of more lockdowns in Europe versus the U.S. opening up, it's definitely putting downward pressure on the euro, simply because you're going to have growth in the U.S. that you won't have elsewhere. Because now you have Texas, Mississippi, Florida is pretty much open, and it's just going to add more pressure on other states to move in the same direction, because otherwise they're just going to get outpaced. And it looks weird that some people can live normal again, and others are facing extreme conditions. So you'll see something a little different on here. What I've been working with is, we talk about this on a regular basis, where we have the let's just go to one of them. I'll just move forward, where we get this no steel reset, which would be dipping back below the red DOC line, and then we end up with the dip of the steel below the zero, or right around 1 is actually the equivalent, and then pops back up where orange then comes, and that gives us a much cleaner buy configuration within that. So the blue simply identifies the cross of the steel above, and then finally when this conversion setup of the dip below with the orange drop sets in. Of course, this is just the basic part of it, making sure that it actually shows up correctly, and then setting up some of the additional conditions that would have to go with it, and tying it into coloring paint. But from an intraday standpoint, might as well look at it while we're here. Currently the setup, you can see it happened right here, and that setup right at the point of a turnaround. Nice buy configuration from there. You can wait a bar until you get the cross of the magenta below the power 2 rising, but shakeout was moving in the same direction. And what I'll create is that it only happens one instance or so after a signal. And then currently we ended up with a DSC spread that took place, just before this last little pop. Orange did cross above there. Secondarily, this would have been an additional one when it came above, which is relatively exactly the same spot. And then the conservative version would be all the way to the magenta. However, you're starting to see gold rising at that particular point, but you would need to see the orange dip all the way down for that to be a turnaround. So that's what to watch at the current state. You can see it was just a slow progression of little pops that fail, and very clean on their failures, because you get that steel coming down below cyan, and the orange shoots up, and it usually begins the cycle. And it's just a repetitive one. You can watch it over and over again. Here you had the magenta, but then you get an immediate reversal setup that took place right there. But it also faded out, and it was quite a range where you went with pretty much these drawdowns without having that dip back below of steel coming from underneath to provide a little support to push it back up. And that's when it happens. When you get that full reset, you typically get these moves that take at least to 50%, if not more. And going back earlier, so it's just a progression of helping to make these alterations, and it'll probably be triggered when we have these magentas so that we can see these situations where we have turnaround move from a short. Just helps clarify it. And so as I get those final conditions in, we'll be able to clarify that even tighter, which I think will be very helpful. Just making it clean and easy. That's the whole idea. As always, though, I will continue to update you on the progress of that, and as soon as I'm able to incorporate it in the Power 2, I will definitely send it all out to everyone so that you have that adjustment, and then we don't have to do it manually. It'll just show up as the color change, which that's the ideal setup. As always, though, I will see you on the Skype chat. Trade well.